Hi Manchester Academy, Mr. Verity here, and I want to tell you about a very special book. Now, I wouldn't say that this was my favourite book that I've ever read, but I would say that it was the book that had the most profound effect on me when I'd read it, and it was definitely the most important book that I've ever read. The name of this book is Roots, written over 12 years by an author called Alex Haley, and first published in 1976. There's a picture of Alex Haley there next to the book. He was a black American man who began writing during his 20-year career in the US Coast Guard, and he became the first chief journalist for the US Coast Guard. He held this position until he retired in 1959. He then became a magazine writer and an interviewer. The first book that he wrote was the autobiography of Malcolm X, after which he spent the next 12 years researching and writing this book, Roots. Alex Haley died in Seattle in 1992, aged 70. Now, this is a little bit different from the other award-winning fiction sessions that Mrs. Green and Miss Tregellis have been doing. They've been great. I've really enjoyed listening to some of the amazing works of fiction, and some of the non-fiction this week has also been really interesting. However, this book is different. It isn't really a work of fiction, although some parts of the book are fictionalized, but the story itself is very real. And over the next week or so, I'll read some of the most impactful extracts from it, and hopefully it might inspire you to, if not read it all, because it is quite a long book, at least do some research around it. 1 year after Roots was published, it was adapted into a television miniseries. There's the television miniseries from 1977. When it opened, it aired to a record-breaking audience of 130 million viewers. In the United States, the book and the miniseries raised the public awareness of Black American history and inspired a broad interest in genealogy and family history. In 2016, Roots was again adapted into a TV miniseries. If the book is a little bit too daunting, I can't recommend the two TV series enough. They're both incredible and extremely important, particularly now in today's climate. So today, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what the book is about and how it was written, and then I will get into the extracts as we move through the week. When he was a boy in Henning, Tennessee, Alex Haley's grandmother used to tell him stories about their family, stories that went back to her grandparents and their grandparents, down through the generations, all the way to a man she called the African. She said he had lived across the ocean near what he called the Cambi Balongo, and had been out in the forest one day chopping wood to make a drum when he was set upon by 4 men, beaten, chained and dragged aboard a slave ship bound for colonial America. Still vividly remembering the stories after he grew up and became a writer, Haley began to search for documentation that might authenticate the stories his grandmother had told him. It took 10 years and 500,000 miles of travel across 3 continents to find it, but finally, in an astonishing feat of genealogical detective work, he discovered not only the name of the African, Kunta Kinte, but the precise location of Jafori, the very village in the Gambia, West Africa, from which he was abducted in 1767 at the age of 16 and taken on the Lord Lagonia to Maryland and sold to a Virginia planter. Haley has talked in Jafori with his own African 6th cousins. On September 29th, 1967, he stood on the dock in Annapolis, where his great-great-great-great-grandfather was taken ashore on September 29th, 1767. In Roots, Haley has written the monumental 2-century drama of Kunta Kinte and the 6 generations who came after him, slaves and freedmen, farmers and blacksmiths, lumber mill workers, Pullman porters, lawyers and architects, and one author. But Haley has done more than recapture the history of his own family. As the first black American writer to trace his origins back to their roots, he has told the story of 25 million Americans of African descent. He has rediscovered for an entire people a rich cultural heritage that slavery took away from them, along with their names and their identities. But Roots speaks finally not just to black people or to white people, but to all people and all races everywhere, for the story it tells is one of the most eloquent testimonials ever written about the human spirit triumphing over all. In these times of unrest, fear and uncertainty, Roots is still as prescient, important and relevant as it was in 1976. I'll leave you with some words from the rapper and activist Killer Mike. He said about the protests in Atlanta, "It's your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with the enemy. Now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize." Thanks for listening. Hope to see you all soon. Stay safe.